Pythagorean theorem, real-world situations. You're locked out of your house and the only open window is one on the second floor, 24 feet above the ground. You need to borrow a ladder from one of your neighbors. There is a bush along the edge of the house, so you'll have to place the ladder 7 feet from the house. What length of ladder do you need to reach the window? This is a word problem. So what do we know? We know that there is a window 24 feet above the ground on the second floor. We will draw an arrow representing the height from the ground to the window, and we'll label it 24 feet. We also know that there is a bush along the edge of the house, so we'll have to place the ladder 7 feet from the house. We'll draw an arrow to represent the 7 feet distance from the house. We will place our ladder and we will find out how long the ladder will need to be. I will locate my 90-degree angle and I will find out that my ladder is going to be my C side. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A would be 7 squared, B will be 24 squared, and those will equal C squared. 7 times 7 is 49, and 24 times 24 is 576. The sum of these two will equal C squared. The sum of 576 and 49 is 625. 625 equals C squared. I have found the area of the missing square. Remember that I will have to square root 625 and square root C squared to find my missing side. Square root and square will cancel each other out. The square root of 625 would be 25. Therefore, my missing length will be 25, and 25 represents how long the ladder will need to be for the ladder to reach the window. You need to construct a ramp to roll a cart from your garage into the back of your truck. You have a 5-foot board to create the ramp, and the back of the truck is 36 inches above the ground. We know that we have a 5-foot board to create the ramp. So that ramp will be labeled 5 feet. We also know that the back of the truck is 36 inches above the ground. We'll let the arrow represent the distance from the ground up, which is 36 inches. They're asking us how far away from the truck does the base of the ramp have to be. We'll draw an arrow from the truck away to the ramp. I am going to locate my 90-degree angle to determine where my C side is. I know the 5 feet is my C side, therefore I am missing A side. 36 and 5 do not have the same units of measure, so I will have to convert the inches to feet. 12 inches equals 1 foot, therefore 36 inches equal 3 feet. I will not need the 36 inches, instead I will use 3 feet. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, which will be A squared plus B squared, which is 3 squared, equals 5 squared. A squared plus 3 times 3 is 9 equals 5 times 5 is 25. I will treat this as a one-step equation, and I will solve this by subtracting 9 to both sides of the equation. 9 minus 9, 0 pairs. A squared will equal 25 minus 9 equals 16. I have found the area of the missing square. I will have to square root 8 squared. Square and square roots cancel each other out, leaving me with A. And the square root of 16 is 4. 4 will represent how far from the truck the base of the ramp has to be, 4 feet. Students in a woodshop class created a podium for Mr. Mahon. The students used a 20-inch piece of plywood to create the top of the podium, as shown in the diagram below. What is h? The total height in inches of the front of the podium. What do we know? We know that we have a 20-inch piece of plywood to create the top of the podium. If you notice, the two red arrows are creating a right triangle. Thus, I will find my 90-degree angle, draw my arrow, and label that my C side. So I know that the 20-inch piece of plywood is my C side, is my diagonal. B side will be 16, and I am missing my A side, okay? I am looking for the total height of that front of that podium. I also have a 14-inch, but we do not worry about that right now. We will use that later. I am going to draw out the right triangle, and I am going to label my B side and my C side and my A side, which is missing. I will then solve with my a squared plus b squared equals c squared equation, where a is missing and b is 16 squared, which will equal 20 squared. A squared is missing, 16 squared is 256, and 20 squared equals 400. I will solve this as a one-step equation. Subtract 256 from both sides of the equation. 256 minus 256, zero pair. 8 squared equals 144, which I then need to square root to find the missing side length. 8 squared, taking the square root, they will cancel each other out, leaving me with 8. And the square root of 144 is 12. Now, 12 is the side length of the top part of that podium, the part that is missing. We need to find the entire length. Therefore, you will have to add the 14 inches plus the 12 inches, and that will give us a height of 26 inches. At a water park, there is a slide that you really want to ride. In order to get to the top of the 29-foot slide, you must first climb a ladder. When you finish the ride, you end up 21 feet from the base of the ladder. So they're asking us, how tall is the ladder that you must climb in order to get to the top of the slide? What do we want to know? How tall is the ladder? The ladder is standing up. We don't know how tall the ladder is. However, we do know that there is a 29-foot slide. We're going to represent the slide with the 29 feet. And we also know that when you finish the ride, from the ladder to the slide, there are 21 feet of space. Okay, so we're going to represent that with that red arrow, and we'll label it 21 feet. I will locate my 90-degree angle, and I will draw my arrow, which then lets me know that 29 feet is my diagonal, which is my C side. I am missing my A side. I will solve with a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a is missing and b is 21 squared. And that will equal 29 squared. 8 squared plus the 21 squared, which is 441, will equal 29 squared, which is 841. I will solve this as a one-step equation where I subtract 441 from both sides of the equation. 441 minus 441, zero pairs. 8 squared equals 400, because 841 minus 441 gives you 400. I will then take the square root of a, which cancel each other out with the square and square root, leaving me with a. And 400, the square root of 400 will be 20. 20 is how tall the ladder is. Mr. Thompson created a mosaic tile in the shape of a rectangle to place in his garden. The length of the tile is 22.5 inches and the width of the tile is 12 inches. What is the length of the diagonal of the mosaic tile? We want to draw the shape first. We know that we are talking about a rectangle where it has a length of 22.5 inches and a width of 12 inches. We are looking for a diagonal. Therefore, I will let this arrow represent the diagonal of that rectangle. I will locate my 90-degree angle and draw my arrow to locate where my C side is, which in this case is missing. I would then solve with a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a is 12 squared, b is 22.5 squared, and those equal c squared. 12 squared is 144, and 22.5 squared is 506.25, which those equal c squared. I will find the sum of a and b, which is 650.25, and that equals c squared. We are looking for the side, thus we need to find the square root of the area, which is 650.25. Square root of 650.25 and the square root of c squared. Square and square root will cancel each other out, leaving me with c. And the square root of 650.25 is 25.5. 25.5 inches is the length of the diagonal of the mosaic tile.